The cargo freighter Iron Hope drifted through the edge of an asteroid belt, her engines burning with a steady blue glow. Commander Elias Kane sat in the cockpit, one boot resting on the console, eyes scanning the endless dark. For most pilots, this region of space was a dead zone, empty rock, old debris, and nothing worth the risk. But for Elias, hauling ore and scrap was an honest living, and the quiet suited him. He didn't expect to hear a distress call. Not here, not this far from any star system. The signal came weak and broken, almost drowned by static. Elias leaned forward, adjusting the receiver. Unidentified vessel. Emergency. Life support failing. Then silence. Elias frowned. That's not good. He tapped the console. Computer? Locate source. A holographic grid lit up, showing a red marker less than 10 minutes away. A shuttle, barely bigger than a transport pod, spinning between jagged asteroids. Heat signatures faint. Oxygen levels critical. Every instinct told him to ignore it. This wasn't his problem. A lone freighter captain didn't stop in the middle of an asteroid field for unknown signals. Pirates use tricks like this all the time, but something in the broken voice high-pitched. Young Terrified caught at him. Elias muttered, "Guess we're doing this the stupid way." He angled the Iron Hope toward the signal, shields humming as he threaded between drifting rocks. The shuttle came into view, scarred, half-burned, one engine blown apart. Emergency beacons flickered weakly. "Hang in there," Elias said, though no one could hear. He locked onto the shuttle with a magnetic grapple and pulled it into his docking bay. Warning lights flashed red across his console. Life signs failing. Elias didn't waste time. He strapped on a breather mask and ran to the bay. The shuttle hatch was warped, almost sealed shut. He grabbed a cutter and forced it open. Metal screeching as sparks lit the dim air. Inside was smoke, broken panels, and silence. Then a small movement. At first Elias thought it was a child. Small frame, curled in the corner, arms wrapped around trembling knees. But the skin was pale silver, smooth like glass, and the eyes large. Glowing faintly violet, it opened wide in fear. The alien child whimpered. Elias froze. "Well, you're not what I expected," he muttered. The child pressed back, eyes darting to his mask, his uniform, his hands. Elias slowly raised both palms, showing he meant no harm. "Easy. I'm not here to hurt you." The child's breathing was shallow. A cracked breathing collar hung around its neck, leaking air. Without thinking, Elias pulled off his emergency mask and placed it over the child's face. The kid gasped, then coughed, drawing steady breaths. "Yeah, take it," Elias said. He could survive a while without it. The alien blinked at him, confused but alive. Small fingers clutched the mask, as if expecting it to vanish any second. Elias reached carefully into a compartment, pulling out a portable med pack. He scanned for injuries, fractures, bruises, dehydration. Nothing fatal, thank God. "What the hell happened to you?" Elias whispered. The child only stared, eyes shimmering. Then, in a voice like cracked glass, it whispered something. Elias didn't understand the words, but the fear in them was clear. Before he could reply, his ship's alarm blared. Incoming vessels. Multiple signatures. Weapons armed. Elias swore and sprinted back to the cockpit. On his scanner, 3 sleek warships closed in, dark and sharp like hunting blades. Their identifiers showed nothing recognizable. Pirates? Mercenaries? Or something worse? A harsh voice crackled over comms. "Human vessel. You have something that belongs to us. Release it and leave." Elias looked back toward the bay, where the alien child huddled near the door. Small hands trembled, clutching the mask. Those glowing violet eyes locked onto his, terrified. Trusting Elias muttered under his breath, "Well, Kane, this is where you either prove you're an idiot or a hero." He flipped the cum switch. "Yeah, not happening. If you wanted a package delivered, you should have paid for shipping." The enemy ships opened fire. Bolts of red energy streaked past, smashing into asteroids. The Iron Hope shuddered as shields lit up. Elias gritted his teeth, hands flying over controls. He wasn't a warship captain, just a freighter pilot, but he knew how to make rocks work for him. He dove into the asteroid field, weaving between spinning boulders. Enemy fire chased him, carving glowing scars across stone. Elias spun the ship sideways, engines screaming. Slipping through a gap no sane pilot would have tried. The child screamed from the bay, a sound echoing faintly over intercom. Elias swore again. "Hang on, kid." He triggered the freighter's mining lasers, blasting loose chunks of rock into enemy paths. One warship collided, shields sparking. Another clipped a spinning asteroid, engines sputtering. But the third kept coming, faster, angrier. Its cannons charged, glowing like molten suns. Elias slammed a hand on the auxiliary controls. "Come on, girl, don't fail me now." The Iron Hope's cargo bay ejected a cluster of metal scrap-hold mining equipment. Worthless, or junk, he hadn't bothered to sell. The debris scattered like a glittering cloud. The pursuing ship plowed straight through, shredding its shields. Elias twisted the freighter around and fired every pulse cannon he had. The warship exploded in a blinding flash. The silence that followed was thick and heavy. Elias exhaled slowly, heart pounding. The other two ships retreated, limping back into the dark. Elias leaned back in his seat, sweat dripping down his neck. "Not bad for a trash hauler," he muttered. Then he remembered the child. He ran back to the bay. The alien was curled on the floor, eyes wide, body trembling, but alive. When Elias knelt down, the child reached out with one small, hesitant hand. Elias hesitated only a moment before taking it. "Don't worry," he said softly. "You're safe now. Whoever you are, wherever you're from, I've got you, for the first time." The child made a faint sound, not fear, but relief. Elias looked out the bay window, where the stars stretched endless and cold. He knew this wasn't over. Whoever wanted the kid would come again. And harder. But as the child's small hand clung to his, Elias Kane realized something. He had already made his choice. The Iron Hope limped into orbit around Station Series 9, its hull scarred and engines running on half power. Commander Elias Kane had barely slept since the rescue. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw flashes of enemy fire, the explosion of the warship, and those violet eyes staring at him in fear. Now the alien child was asleep in the medbay cot. Wrapped in a blanket far too big for its small frame, the mask Elias had given still fed a trickle of oxygen. The soft hum of the machine seemed to calm the child. Elias stood at the door, arms crossed. He wasn't a father. He wasn't even good with kids. Yet every time he looked at the little one, something inside him stirred something protective. The station's docking clamps locked into place with a loud clang. A robotic voice announced, "Welcome to Series 9. Prepare for inspection." Elias sighed. Inspections meant questions, and questions meant trouble. The arrival two station officers entered his ship. Behind them came a group of strangers, tall, armored, and too elegant to be mercenaries. Their armor shimmered like polished stone, and their faces were hidden behind smooth masks. The lead officer looked nervous. "Commander Kane. These, visitors claim the child you rescued is of great importance. They request your presence." Elias didn't like the word request. The strangers didn't look like they were asking anything. One of them spoke, voice calm but commanding. "You will come with us. The heir requires your presence." Elias blinked. "Heir? He's just a kid." The figure tilted its head. "Not a he. Not a kid. That is the blood of the Dominion. And you, human, have touched destiny," Elias muttered. "Fantastic. Just my luck." Still, he followed. The journey of the strangers escorted Elias to a sleek ship, unlike anything he had seen. Its hull glowed faintly, as though carved from crystal and light. Inside, corridors shimmered, with patterns that shifted like flowing water. He was guided to a chamber where the child waited, awake now, sitting on a cushioned seat. The child's violet eyes lit up the moment Elias entered. Tiny hands reached out, clinging to his sleeve. The guards exchanged silent glances. See? Elias said dryly. Guess I'm the babysitter now. The guards did not laugh. The ship launched, pulling away from Series 9. Through the window, stars stretched into streaks as they entered faster than light travel. Elias had never traveled like this. The jump felt smooth, like sliding on glass. How far are we going? Elias asked. The lead guard replied to the asterisk Thauri Dominion's capital. To the Queen, Elias groaned. Of course. Straight to royalty. Why not? The capital after days of travel, the ship emerged above a world that took Ilias's breath away. The planet was green and gold, its continents glowing with rivers of light. Orbital rings circled it like crowns. Vast cities floated in the upper atmosphere. The child pressed its face to the glass, eyes wide, as if relieved to be home. The landing was smooth, silent. Elias was escorted into a palace unlike any human-designed towers of living crystal. Glowing gardens, air that shimmered with faint energy. The place felt alive, as if the walls themselves breathed. He was brought into a grand hall where the Queen of the Thauri awaited. The Queen she sat upon a throne of silver and light. Tall and graceful, her skin a pale shimmer like her child's butt with the weight of centuries in her eyes. Her presence was overwhelming, like standing before a storm that could sweep him away. The child ran forward, pressing against her side. The Queen's stern expression softened as she touched the little one's hair. But when her gaze turned to Elias, it hardened again. So, she said, voice echoing through the hall, this is the human who risked his life to save my blood. Elias bowed awkwardly. Name's Commander Kane. Just did what anyone would. No, the Queen said sharply. Not anyone. Many would have left the shuttle to drift. But you did not. Why? Elias hesitated. Because it was a kid, hurt, scared. Didn't matter if they were human or not. I couldn't just leave them. The Queen studied him, silent for a long moment. Then she rose, towering above him. You have done the Dominion a service. But know this, human. You are no longer free. Elias stiffened. Excuse me? The heir has chosen you, she said. They cling to you as to no other. You will remain here at court until I decide otherwise. Elias scowled. With respect, I have a ship, a life, a job. The Queen cut him off. You have a duty. To the heir. To me. Do not mistake kindness for choice. The child looked up at Elias, eyes wide, silent plea clear. Elias swallowed hard. He couldn't bring himself to walk away. Not now. The first night Elias was given chambers in the palace luxurious, alien, uncomfortable. The walls glowed with soft light, and the bed shifted shape to match his body. But he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Earth, about his ship, probably impounded by now, about the fact he was deep inside alien territory with no way out. A small knock broke the silence. The door slid open, and the child peeked inside. No guards, no attendants, just those glowing eyes. Elias sighed and gestured. Come in, kid. The child climbed onto the bed, curling against him like it was the most natural thing in the world. Elias froze, awkward, then relaxed. He pulled the blanket over both of them. He whispered. I didn't sign up for this. The child gave a tiny smile before drifting to sleep. Elias stared at the ceiling, thinking, I'm not a soldier, not a guardian, just a guy who hauls scrap. But the child's small hand clung to his shirt, like it was holding on to life itself, and Elias knew. Deep down, that leaving wasn't an option anymore. The warning the next morning, one of the guards finally unmasked, spoke quietly to Elias as they walked through the palace gardens. You should understand, human. Many here do not want you. The Queen tolerates your presence only because of the heir's attachment. Enemies watch. They whisper. Elias raised an eyebrow. Enemies. What? Someone wants to hurt the kid? The guard's eyes darkened. The heir is the future of the Dominion. Rivals see weakness in youth. Assassins see opportunity. And you, human, are both shield and target. Elias's stomach sank. He looked back toward the child, playing quietly among glowing flowers. Small, fragile, unaware of the danger. He muttered under his breath, "Guess I really am the babysitter now." The oath that evening, Elias was summoned once more to the throne room. The queen stood, the child at her side. "The Dominion honors you, Elias Kane," she said. "But understand this. If you betray the heir, if you fail them, your life is forfeit." Elias looked straight at her. "I don't need threats to do the right thing. I didn't save the kid for reward or glory. I'll protect them because that's what we do." The queen studied him again, long and hard, before finally nodding. "Then let it be so. From this day, the heir's safety rests in human hands." The hall echoed with murmurs, shock, disbelief, anger. Elias felt the weight settle on his shoulders like a mountain. The child slipped a hand into his, small, warm, trusting. The days passed in the Crystal Palace of the Thalry Dominion. For Commander Elias Kane, each day felt stranger than the last. He was a freighter pilot used to rusty docks, noisy engines, and cheap meals in space stations. Now he lived in shining halls where the walls glowed like starlight, where servants bowed as he passed, and where every look whispered that he didn't belong. But one thing was clear. The child trusted him. Every morning, the heir, small, silver-skinned Violet, appeared at his side, following him like a shadow. The child refused to eat unless Elias was nearby, refused to sleep unless Elias was close. The queen tolerated this, but never smiled at it. The queen's command one evening, Elias was summoned again to the throne hall. He walked slowly across the shimmering floor, aware of dozens of alien nobles watching him. Their robes sparkled like living flame, and their eyes were sharp as blades. The queen sat upon her throne, silent as stone. The heir sat near her, but when Elias entered, the child ran to him instantly, clinging to his sleeve. Gasps rose from the nobles. The queen's voice carried through the hall like thunder. "Commander Kane, Earth demands your return. They request you be released from my service." Elias blinked. "Earth knows about me?" "That was fast," the queen continued. "I have refused." The hall went silent. Elias's heart skipped. "Refused?" "Yes," the queen said. "The heir's safety is tied to you. Their life depends on you. You will remain until I decide otherwise." Elias stiffened. "With respect, Your Majesty, I didn't volunteer for this. I saved the kid because it was right. But I've got a ship, a crew waiting for me, a whole life out there. I can't just stay here like a prisoner." The queen's eyes narrowed. "Not a prisoner, a guardian. But you do not understand. The heir has chosen you. They trust no one else. Without you, their spirit withers. Do you wish to see them die of despair?" The child pressed closer to Elias, his eyes pleading. Elias felt his throat tighten. He wanted to argue, to shout, to demand his freedom. But how could he say no when the small hand clung to his so tightly? The queen spoke again, final and cold. "This is not Earth. Here, duty is not a choice. You will remain." The nobles murmured approval. Elias stood frozen, jaw tight. In that moment, he realized he was trapped. The whisper of rebellion later that night. Elias wandered the palace gardens alone. Strange flowers glowed softly in the dark, filling the air with a sweet, heavy scent. He tried to think. He had faced pirates, storms, and near death in space, but this was different. This was a cage of crystal and silk. A soft voice broke the silence. "You do not belong here." Elias turned. A tall figure stepped from the shadows. It was one of the nobles, slender, sharp-eyed, their robe glowing faintly blue. "Glad someone noticed," Elias muttered. The noble's lips curved into a faint smile. "The queen binds you, but others whisper. Many believe her decision is weakness. Some say you should be removed." Quietly, Elias stiffened. "Removed?" "Assassins do not ask questions," the noble said calmly. "Be cautious, human. You are not welcome here. And if the child remains attached to you, Their life is in greater danger as well, as silently as they came. The noble melted back into the shadows. Elias stood still, fists clenched. Great. Not only am I stuck here, I'm painting a target on the kid's back. A clash with the queen the next morning. Elias confronted the queen in private. She sat at a long table of crystal, studying reports glowing in the air. You need to release me, Elias said firmly. If I stay, the air becomes a bigger target. Enemies will use me to get to them. You saw how your nobles look at me. The queen didn't lift her eyes. Your presence protects the air. Enemies may hate you, but they fear you more, Elias scoffed. Fear me? I'm just a guy with a freighter. You've got armies, fleets, assassins trained since birth. What makes me so important? Finally, the queen looked up. Her gaze was sharp as a blade. Because you are human. Because you act without calculation. You chose to risk your life for a stranger, something rare in this dominion. That is why the air clings to you. That is why I will not let you go. Elias's jaw tightened. So I'm not a person anymore. I'm a tool. A symbol. The queen's silence was answer enough. The heirs feared that evening. Elias found the child waiting at his door, trembling. When he knelt, the heir threw small arms around his neck, burying their face against his shoulder. Hey, easy, Elias whispered. What's wrong? The child whispered in their own language, words Elias couldn't understand, but the fear in their voice was clear. He guessed it, whispers of threats, of assassins, of being taken again. Elias hugged the child closer. No one's taking you. Not while I'm breathing. The child looked up, eyes shining with trust. Elias sighed heavily. Damn it. How am I supposed to walk away now? The first attack, the answer came sooner than he expected. In the dead of night, Elias woke to a sound of faint hiss, like gas. He rolled from bed just as a blade slashed where his head had been. A dark figure loomed, mask gleaming. Dagger in hand, the child screamed. Elias grabbed the nearest thing, a heavy lamp hand, swung with all his strength. The assassin staggered but didn't fall. They moved like liquid, fast and silent, striking again. Elias dodged, heart pounding. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't trained for this. But survival was survival, and humans were stubborn. He fought dirty, throwing furniture, kicking hard. Anything to keep the assassin away from the child. Finally, he slammed the attacker against the wall and ripped off their mask. The face beneath was cold, alien, eyes burning with hate. Before they could strike again, palace guards stormed in, weapons drawn. The assassin tried to flee, but was cut down in a flash of light. The child clung to Elias, shaking. Guards dragged the body away. Elias looked at the queen, who had arrived moments later. Her expression was stone, but her eyes flickered with something fear or anger. You see? Elias growled. This is what I warned you about. The queen's voice was low, heavy. Then you understand why you cannot leave. If you go, they will find ways to take the air. Only you keep them alive. Elias stared at her, chest heaving. He hated it. Hated being used. But when he looked down at the child in his arms, small and terrified, he knew she was right. For now, the prison of duty, days later, the palace was quieter, but tension ran through every hall. Guards doubled. Nobles whispered louder. And everywhere Elias went, eyes followed him. He felt the walls closing in, the weight of a choice he hadn't made. He wanted freedom, wanted his ship, wanted the stars. But every time he tried to imagine leaving, he saw the child's eyes pleading, trusting. He couldn't walk away. Not yet. That night, as the heir drifted asleep beside him, Elias whispered to himself, You're not a soldier, Cain. You're not a hero. But you've got one job now. Protect the kid, whatever it takes. The morning light fell soft and golden over the Thalry Dominion capital, but Commander Elias Cain did not feel its warmth. He had spent countless hours pacing the glowing halls of the palace, thinking, planning, worrying. The child, small, silver-skinned and violet-eyed, was already awake, sitting quietly in the corner of the room. Yet even in sleep, the air seemed restless, as if the smallest whisper of danger could reach them across the palace walls. Elias sat down beside the cot, rubbing his tired eyes. "Okay, kid," he murmured. "Today's another day. Another test, apparently." The heir tilted their head, eyes wide and trusting. Elias could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on him. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't trained for palace politics or alien combat. He was a freighter pilot who had rescued a child out in space. And now, the galaxy had decided that survival land duty rested squarely on his shoulders. The warning A soft chime sounded, alerting him to an incoming message. A holographic display flickered to life in the room. One of the Queen's advisors appeared a thin, pale alien with eyes like polished amethyst. "Commander Kane," the advisor said, voice smooth but urgent. "You should know. Not all here welcome your presence. The heir's position makes enemies bold. Threats have been detected. You are advised to remain vigilant at all times." Elias rubbed the bridge of his nose. "Thanks for the pep talk. You don't need to tell me." The advisor's expression remained unreadable. "This is not a suggestion. There will be tests. Physical, mental, and moral. Be prepared. Failure will cost more than your life." Elias's jaw tightened. "Tests, great. Just what I needed." He looked down at the heir, who had tilted their head at the words, trying to understand. Elias swallowed and smiled weakly. "Don't worry. Nobody's taking you on my watch. Nobody." The first test. The chase that afternoon, the Queen summoned Elias to the palace training grounds. The courtyard was vast, crystal floors gleaming in sunlight, surrounded by hovering towers and glowing gardens. Several Thalri warriors were already present, moving silently. Their weapons strange but deadly. "You will face them," the Queen's voice echoed. "Not to fight for victory, but to demonstrate vigilance, speed, and cunning. Protect the heir from all threats. Show that you are capable." Elias looked around, heart pounding. "I'm supposed to fight these guys?" He swallowed hard. These weren't simple guards, these were elite warriors. Trained from birth, moving like shadows, strong, precise, deadly. A horn sounded, and suddenly they attacked. Elias ran, dodging blasts of energy and carefully timed strikes. He used what he knew, spinning, ducking, weaving in the terrain to his advantage. He threw objects, used walls, slipped through gaps the warriors hadn't expected. He couldn't match their speed or strength, but he had something else: unpredictability. One warrior lunged, but Elias tripped, rolling out of the way, then grabbed a glowing pole and swung it, knocking the attacker off balance. Another came at him from behind. He ducked, causing them to crash into a fountain that sprayed sparkling water everywhere. The heir watched from a balcony, eyes wide. Elias realized then that it wasn't just about fighting, it was about ingenuity. The Queen wanted to see if he could think under pressure, adapt, and keep the child safe by the end of the exercise. Elias was panting, clothes torn and bruised, but he had survived. He hadn't beaten the warriors in a straight fight, but he had outsmarted them at every turn. The Queen nodded. Resourcefulness. Humans often succeed where experience fails. You have passed the first test. Elias wiped sweat from his brow. Resourcefulness. I call it luck. The heir smiled faintly, hands clapping softly. Elias allowed himself a small grin too. The second test. The moral dilemma later. Elias was escorted to another chamber. The walls shimmered with holographic projections of the city and palace. The Queen's advisor appeared again. Now comes a test of morality and loyalty. You will choose: protect the heir, or save an entire sector of the Dominion from engineered disaster. Elias frowned. Wait, what kind of disaster? The projections shifted to show buildings on fire, citizens running in panic, and alarms screaming across the city. Artificial, the advisor said. Simulated, but your choices will reflect your instincts. Only one human decision will be observed for the Queen's judgment. Elias studied the simulation. Saving the sector meant leaving the heir unprotected for a critical few moments. Saving the heir could let the sector burn. His mind raced. He thought of the child, small, scared, clinging to him for protection. His heart made the decision before his brain could argue. "I protect the heir," Elias said firmly. The simulation showed him running back to the child, dodging attacks, shielding them from harm. The fires raged in the hologram, citizens screamed, but the Queen's voice echoed, "Compassion for those bound to you. Loyalty above all else. A human instinct." "You have passed the test," Elias exhaled. "Loyalty. Okay? I can do that." Heir's violet eyes shone with relief. Elias patted the small shoulder. "See, we survived again." The third test, mental challenges that night. Elias was led to a chamber filled with strange devices and glowing symbols. Several Thalri elders stood around him, their faces stern, expressions unreadable. "Your mind must be as sharp as your body," one said. "The heir's survival depends not just on reflexes, but reasoning. You will solve problems others could not." The challenges were complex: navigation puzzles, alien languages, sequences of light and sound he had never seen. At first, Elias felt hopeless, sweating under pressure. But he remembered what humans could do, the same thing that had saved him and the heir before. Think differently. Improvise. Trust instincts. He watched the patterns, noticed subtle repetition, and began experimenting. Mistakes came fast, but lessons came faster. Slowly, he worked through the puzzles. One by one, the elders nodded. The Queen appeared silently behind them, watching. "You are clever, human," she said softly. "Adaptation and insight. Again, traits rare in this dominion." Elias rubbed his forehead. "I'm just trying not to screw up." The heir peeked from the doorway, small hands clapping quietly. Elias smiled tiredly, exhausted but alive. The night before the final test that evening, Elias returned to his chambers, bruised and weary. The heir waited quietly, holding a small glowing sphere. "You did well today," Elias said. "I can't say I understand everything they wanted, but we survived." The child looked at him, eyes shining. They handed him the glowing sphere. When Elias touched it, a small pulse of warmth ran through his fingers. He realized it was a symbol of trust, a token from the heir, something only he could hold safely. Elias sighed. "You know, kid, tomorrow's probably going to be worse, bigger, meaner. Whatever it is, we'll face it, together." The child nodded, small hand clutching his sleeve. Elias felt a flicker of hope. He wasn't just surviving this alien world. He was learning to protect, to adapt, and to endure. The final test. A message from the Queen the next morning. Elias was summoned again. The Queen's eyes were sharp, but there was a faint trace of approval in her expression. "You have survived tests of speed, intelligence, and loyalty," she said. "Now comes the ultimate challenge. The heir's survival in the face of a real threat. This will not be simulated." Elias felt a chill. "Real threat?" He looked down at the child, who clung to him silently. The Queen continued. "A rival faction has sent assassins to your location. You must protect the heir from them. Use all you have learned. Show that human determination can match the cunning of this galaxy." Elias's heart pounded, but he squared his shoulders. "I've got one job, and I'm not failing. Not now. Not ever." The heir's violet eyes locked onto his. In that silent moment, Elias knew. This test wasn't just about skill. It was about trust, courage, and the bond between them. Whatever came next, he would face it head-on. The galaxy had thrown challenges at him before. This time, he wasn't just surviving for himself. He was surviving for the heir. The palace was unusually silent that morning, a calm that Elias Kane knew was dangerous. Too often, the quiet before dawn meant trouble was coming. He paced the glowing halls, the weight of the heir's small hand in his mind, pressing harder than any armor or shield. Today would be the ultimate test. Not of skill, not of courage, not even of loyalty, but of choice. He glanced at the child, sleeping peacefully in the medbay cot. The violet eyes that had once widened in fear now shone with trust and hope. Elias's chest tightened. Whatever happened today, couldn't let anything happen to this small being. The Queen's final summons, the Queen summoned him to the throne hall. Her presence filled the room, as always majestic, cold, and commanding. But there was a subtle softness in her eyes this time, as if she knew what lay ahead was more than a test of combat or intelligence. "Elias Kane," she said, voice echoing through the chamber. "The time has come to make your decision. You have proven your skill, loyalty, and courage. But now you must choose. Return to Earth, or remain here with the heir, bound to duty and danger." Elias's jaw tightened. He had thought he wanted freedom, to leave this shining cage and return to the familiar stars of his own people. And yet, as he looked at the heir watching him with trust, their small fingers clutching the edge of the throne platform, he realized that leaving would be impossible. "Why do you ask me this?" he said finally. "If you already know I'll stay?" The Queen studied him, eyes sharp. "Because choice is the truest measure of character. You may remain out of obligation, or you may remain out of will. Only the latter proves you are worthy of the heir's trust." Elias exhaled slowly, rubbing his face. Choice, huh? He had made choices before choices that risked his life, his ship, his freedom. But this one wasn't about him anymore. The threat appears before Elias could respond. Alarms blared through the palace. A holographic display projected in the center of the throne hall showed 3 shadowy ships descending rapidly from orbit, weapons armed. The Queen's expression remained calm, but Elias felt the familiar rush of adrenaline. "Assassins," he muttered. Or worse. The child ran to him instinctively, clinging to his leg. "Stay back," Elias shouted, but the heir ignored him. Trust and fear locked together in those violet eyes. "Use everything you've learned," the Queen commanded. "Show me the strength of a human guardian." Elias nodded. This was it. The ultimate test. The enemy had numbers, weapons, and speed, but humans had ingenuity, stubbornness, and heart. The battle begins. Elias grabbed a control panel nearby, opening defensive mechanisms in the palace. Crystal barriers raised, floors shifted, and energy turrets activated automatically. The first shadowy ship fired a pulse beam, shattering part of the outer garden. Elias ducked behind a pillar, pulling the child close. "Hold on, kid," he whispered. "We're going to get through this." The enemy ships advanced, firing relentless beams of energy. Elias dodged and guided the child through shifting halls, using the palace's strange architecture to his advantage. Walls rotated, floors moved, and light beams created obstacles for the intruders. He was exhausted, bruised from previous training and skirmishes, but he never slowed. Each movement was precise, each decision instinctive. Humans were unpredictable, the Queen had said. And now that unpredictability was saving their lives? Narrow escape. The child's hands clutched his sleeve tightly as they ran through a corridor that spiraled like a shell. One ship managed to break through the defenses, firing directly at them. Elias grabbed a large shard of crystal from the floor and hurled it at the incoming beam. The crystal exploded in a blinding flash, deflecting the energy enough for them to slip past. They reached a balcony overlooking the palace courtyard. The air gasped at the view. Enemy ships swarmed like angry predators, circling the palace. Elias gritted his teeth. "We need a plan. And fast." He spotted the palace's energy conduits, massive streams of light running along the walls and floors. Inspiration struck. If he could redirect the energy toward the intruders, it might disable their ships temporarily. With the child safely crouched behind a pillar, Elias climbed the conduit ladder, dodging bursts of energy from enemy fire. His hands burned from touching the glowing surface, but he pushed forward, recalibrating the energy flow with improvised tools he had scavenged from previous defenses. Turning the tide finally, Elias triggered the energy surge. A massive wave of light shot from the conduits, striking the enemy ships. One exploded instantly. Another spun out of control, crashing into the lower palace gardens. The last ship managed to flee, retreating back into space. Elias fell to his knees, breathing heavily, sweat running down his face. The child ran to him, throwing arms around his neck. "You did it," they whispered. Elias hugged them back, exhausted but triumphant. "We did it," he corrected. "Together." The Queen appeared silently behind them, her gaze sharp yet approving. Your ingenuity and courage have been proven. You have saved the heir and the palace. You have passed the final test." Elias stood, dusting himself off. "Passed?" he muttered. "Feels like surviving a war. The choices made after the battle." The queen led Elias and the heir to a quiet chamber overlooking the planet's glowing cities. She spoke softly, yet her words carried the weight of centuries. "You have earned your freedom, Elias Kane. You may return to Earth, take your ship, and leave this place." Elias shook his head. The heir's small hand rested in his. He looked at those violet eyes, full of trust and need. He realized there was no choice at all, not if he wanted to stay true to himself. "I can't leave," he said simply. "Not while they're here. Not while they need me. I'm staying." The queen studied him, then nodded. "Then it is your choice, not obligation. You have proven the essence of humanity: courage, loyalty, and the ability to choose love over fear." The heir smiled, tiny hands gripping his. Elias smiled back, feeling a rare peace. For once, the weight on his shoulders felt like purpose, not burden. The aftermath: over the following weeks, the palace began to settle. The queen recognized Elias not just as a protector, but as an honored guest, a part of the heir's life. The nobles murmured in surprise and respect, many realizing that this human was unlike any being they had known. Elias taught the heir about space, ships, and Earth's simple joys: how to spin a metal ball in your hands, how to build a small engine, and how to solve problems with logic and courage. The child's laughter echoed through the palace halls, a sound the queen had rarely heard. The bond between Elias and the heir grew unbreakable. He was no longer just a freighter pilot or a visitor. He was a guardian, a teacher, and a friend. The human advantage of the queen eventually summoned Elias one last time. "You have shown what humans can do," she said. "Strength alone does not make a ruler or protector. It is spirit, ingenuity, and the heart to act when all odds are against you. The Dominion will remember this, and so will I." Elias bowed, feeling a rare pride. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I'm just doing what anyone should." The queen's eyes softened. "No, Elias Kane, you are the rare human. You are exceptional. You have proven why your kind is unique in this galaxy." Elias looked at the heir, who waved a tiny hand at him. He realized that humans were special not because of strength or technology, but because of something far rarer: the ability to choose love, loyalty, and courage even when nothing is guaranteed. A new beginning, the palace gates opened, and Elias led the child to the upper balcony, overlooking the glittering city. The twin suns of the Dominion rose in the sky, casting golden light over the towers and gardens. "Do you think we'll ever go to Earth?" the heir asked softly. Elias chuckled. "Maybe someday. But for now, this is home, and I'm not going anywhere." The heir smiled and leaned against him. Elias wrapped an arm around their small shoulders. Feeling the warmth and trust that had grown stronger with every danger, every choice, every test, the galaxy was vast and dangerous. But Elias Kane had learned one truth: humans were capable of extraordinary things, not because of weapons or ships, but because of heart, courage, and the choices they made.